The final score, Wigan Athletic 0, Wrexham 0. Don't worry, this won't take long. Um, Frustration for Wrexham, especially because Wickham scored an injury time winner at home to Stevenage, which means they've cut the gap to 1 point now in the scrap for second place. I can't help feeling, though, this could end up being the point that gets us up. It was not a pretty game. It had 0-0 written all over it from the start. It was Wigan who made more chances than us. We didn't have a shot on target. But in a game like that, you got to keep a clean sheet, make sure you don't lose. And frankly, it lived up to expectation, didn't it? There are fewer goals in Wigan games than in the games of any other League One team this season. They've got the worst attack in the division and the best defence outside of promotion spots. And yeah, they played like that really, because I thought they defended well. They looked really organised, and we struggled to break them down. Whereas at the other end, they had moments of promise, two clear-cut chances, I would say. Neither of them were taken advantage of. Conco made one good save. Obviously, that's the one good save either keeper had to make. So yeah, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't fantastic. But it's a point, an away point. And, you know, looking at the remaining games, obviously it's still very much in our hands. And by the same token, on paper, our games look more appetising than Wickham's. Imagine having Wickham's running. You wouldn't want to, would you, needing results from all those matches. So, not a great performance, not a great day, but we dug in and made sure that we didn't lose her at least. And we did push for a winner at the end, but weren't able to really threaten to do so. We started very well, and in a way that's the little element of frustration for me, is that there were a couple of patches of the game, basically the starts of both halves and then the end of the second half, where we looked to level up from Wigan, as our table would suggest, and you thought we were going to do well. And I mean, the opening 10 minutes was all us. The pitch was very quick, looked to have been watered, it was bouncing through really quickly. Tickle, who's a good goalkeeper, Wigan's keeper, was really troubled by this. A couple of times the ball taking a big bounce nearly went straight over him, and he mishandled, and he also mishit a clearance and was lucky that it went like a rocket straight at Rodriguez, who before he had a chance to react, it bounced off back to the keeper. So the early stages were good, but we didn't actually open them up. The wing backs were getting high up the pitch, our midfield was in control, but there was a lot of looking for Smith over the top, trying to run in behind, and like I said, that speed and bounce of the pitch made that very difficult, so our service to Smith wasn't great. Also, I've got to say that Aimson, who was the left-sided centre-back for Wigan, was very, very impressive, and is the first centre-back I've seen since Smith's come to Wrexham, who, when Smith does one of those moves that are one of his strengths, where he backs in and he's so good at pinning a centre-back and holding that ball up, Aimson actually wasn't letting him do that, and that's the first time I've seen that in 12 games for Wrexham with Smith. So there were good performances by Wigan. Also, I say they were organised. They weren't sitting back, although when they had to, they defended their box well. There was organisation through their team. Their midfield were pretty much going man for man in the middle of the pitch and making it hard for us to find space. The most promising moment of the first half when Rathbone beat a man, and therefore that caused an issue because that man then was out of the equation, we had a player over. I'll come to that in a bit. And also, you know, things like Carragher almost looking like he was playing a full-back in a black four at first, and it fooled me at first. He was right-sided centre-back, but they really did not want us to be able to get up the pitch, get McLean up the pitch, and so he was getting very high up to challenge him physically. The game started to turn around, and the rest of the first half, after Wrexham's good start, really belonged to Wigan. We struggled massively to get the ball down and play us around a bit, and there was a little bit of a concern. We survived a scramble just before the 20th minute mark. Lovely little layoff round the corner by Taylor. Mellish bursts onto it, surges into the box and lets off a shot. Brilliant block by O'Connell. The ball ricochets at the edge of the area. Dale following it in, hits a shot, and this time it's Brunt who makes a good block in front of goal to get the ball clear. A couple of minutes later, Asamoah, who was really dangerous, incredibly quick, and was frightening to watch. He felt like a real uncut rough diamond. Can't help thinking of Kone at Wickham last season, when he clearly had lots of attributes, hadn't quite fallen into place, and this year he's developed. I wonder if Asamoah was one of those players. He did really well, cutting in from the left, hitting a terrific curler, which went just wide of the far post and 20 yards. I think Okonkwo had it covered. And likewise, again, 2 minutes later, again, Aimson coming forwards after Cleworth had made a good clearing header and hitting a shot from all of 30 yards, which he really got hold of superbly. Again, Okonkwo, I think, just about had it covered, but as it whistled past the post, it was a great hit. At the end of the half, we started to get the ball down a little bit more. That moment when Rathbone beat his man, surging in midfield, and then feeding it wide to McLean. He sort of crosses to the far post. Longman nodded it down nicely, but the ball was bouncing up at Dobson, a bit of a tricky one to hit, and he pulled it off target. And 0-0 at half time. The second half started a bit like the start of the first. We got on top. We had better tempo to our play. We were penning Wigan in. But we didn't create all that many opportunities. There was one where Longman did really well down the right-hand side, beat Robinson, and that was an interesting battle down Wrexham's right, which Longman generally won. Put a good good pull back in for Rathbone, who passed it into the goal mouth when, I don't know if he maybe saw something that wasn't quite as he thought. I think he should have hit it, in all honesty, and seen if it went through. That's life. The chance was gone. Longman put in another fantastic cross, which was bravely headed away at the near post. And then it was Brunt, in one of the big moments of the match, driving forwards and before feeding Rathbone. Rathbone did really well, broke down the flank. Great cross to the far post. Longman just couldn't take the ball cleanly first time. It was crying out for the shot about 8 yards out, but he couldn't quite do that. So he went round, beat Robinson, and stood the ball back in, and it hit Robinson. Huge shout for handball by Wrexham. Now the referee took a long time thinking about it before pointing to the corner flag. So in his mind, it was close. The context is important because at the end of the first half, Brunt had been penalised, almost the same spot of the pitch, but luckily for Wrexham, just outside the area for a handball. And it was one of those that I think the ref got wrong, but I could sympathise with him massively looking at the replay. And Brunt was adamant that it wasn't his arm. It was, where you're allowed, where your sleeve is, the ball hit. And certainly looking at the replay, it looked to me like he raises his arm, which gives you the feeling of, okay, if that hits his arm, it's going to be a penalty. The ball looks to me to hit his armpit, which most definitely isn't part of his arm, as the rules guideline says the line of the sleeve of a short sleeved shirt. So clearly his armpit's not handball. But I've got to say, I can really understand the referee not seeing that in the heat of the moment and thinking his arm's up, it's a penalty. So Brunt was unlucky. Now this one was more of a penalty, I think, than the Brunt handball that was given outside the box, in that the defender's in pretty much the same shape, pretty much the same distance, fairly close to the player hitting the ball. So in both cases you could argue too close and it shouldn't be handball, but the rest set the precedent of the Brunt decision. And looking at this one, his arm's up and it sort of hits his elbow and then comes down onto his body. Now again, fair play to the ref, he's only got one chance to see it. He's not in the best spot either, he's in the D, so probably the contact is on his blind side and the linesman isn't able to help him out, or the linesman is on the correct side, and it's a corner. So I think Wrexham a bit unlucky, but it was a big call to make. We have another chance with McLean, who put some good set pieces in, swept a ball into the 6-yard box. Smith attacked it well, but he couldn't control his header. He was adamant that it came off the defender last. And we then went into a bit of a dip after the hour, and again, Wigan came back into things. They had their big moment of the match, straight from one of our corners. Like I said, we were delivering good stuff into the box, although admittedly Wigan were defending it well. We decided to play a short one instead. Rathbone to McLean. McLean back to Rathbone, who went around the outside of him to get a different angle. But Rathbone was picked up by the one defender who blocked his attempt to play it into the area. And then Asamoah was away down the right. It was sensational. His pace was quite something. Rathbone's chasing back. Dobson has stayed back. He just bursts past both of them. Longman, without playing the ball, does well to come inside and just try to cover the pass, because there's two players unmarked getting up into the box on the far post. But Asamoah has eyes for goal. He's run from virtually the edge of his area into Wrexham's area. He's earned his right to have a shot. He drives it powerfully, but he goes inside the near post, and Okonkwo stands his ground, makes a good acrobatic save to push it behind. And that corner is cleared, but when it comes back in, Wigan create another clear opening. Asamoah with a really cute back heel in a crowded area around the edge of the box. Mellish helps it on intelligently, and Dale is on his own in the right channel with a clear sight of goal and tries to left-footed curl it around Okonkwo, doesn't get it right and hits it straight down the middle at Okonkwo. In fact, looking at the replay behind the goal, Okonkwo in complete control all the time. The only danger of it going in was Okonkwo overcommitting in his anticipation, because he was moving to his right. You could see where Dale wanted to put it, and as he mishit it and it sort of swung to Okonkwo's left, it could have deceived him as he tried to anticipate, but it certainly didn't, and it was a comfortable save. Halfway through the second half, Phil Parkinson knows that he needs to shake things up and get 3 points. Stephen Fletcher comes on for Jay Rodriguez, Elliot Lee comes on for George Dobson, and Ryan Barnett comes on for James McLean, and pleasingly, we thought, yeah, we're going to give him a good reception. Standing ovation from all the fans in the grounds for McLean. That is brilliant and well deserved. Wigan continue to push on and have another big moment. The referee, I thought, should have given Wigan a free kick on the corner of the box. It was a good position to have a shot. He doesn't, and the advantage does come to something weird, finding Dale. Good ball down the right by him. Mellish has got around the back of the defence, and he pushes a side-footed cross across the face of goal, but nobody's attacking the 6-yard box, and we get away with it. 7 minutes left, Jack Marriott comes on for Smith, and soon after that, I think we have a case to be playing against 10 men for the end of the game. Robinson, who, like I said, has been tested by Longman, now has Barnett to take on, with Longman switching to the left after the substitutions. And Barnett plays a little give and go. Robinson steps away from the ball just to grab hold of Barnett and stop him, and doesn't just grab hold of him and stop him. It's like wrestling. He lifts him in the air and body slams him. It's unbelievable. The ref sees it. You think, well, he's seen it, he's off. He gives him a yellow. I'm a little surprised by that one, gotta be honest. But anyway, okay. And then Wrexham, in the closing stages, we do manage to put a lot of pressure on without really creating. It's not quite the cross-mageddon that Burton suffered when we had Barnett and Longman on the either flank. But there is an opportunity in the second minute of added time. Nice piece of play by Longman, clever pass down the line. Elliot Lee sweeps a good cross into around the penalty spot area. Barnett, maybe unfortunately, is the player who's attacking it rather than Fletcher. The two centre-backs go, one heads it onto the other, and the ball ricochets towards goal, but the pace has gone out of it, and it's an easy take for Tickle. And that's that, 0-0. And the right result, I think, in all honesty. Looking at the performances, Okonkwo was good, confident in the air, made one good save, the one difficult save of the match. The centre-backs played well. I thought O'Connell again was in the midst of everything and won more than his fair share of headers. Brunt was trying to drive forwards and wasn't troubled really defensively. Likewise, Cleworth, who was strong. The back three, I think the only possible contenders from whom a man of the match could be chosen, really. And there's very little to choose between them. I think I'd possibly just about go for Cleworth, I think. But all three of them had good games. At wing back, Longman was very threatening. He was our most promising attacking outlet, and had the beating of Robinson. On the left-hand side, McLean was strong and solid, but wasn't able to make the impact I'm sure he'd have loved to against his old team. And that was brought off as we tried to go a bit more aggressively forwards. James came to the fore in our good spells and made some good covering work. Probably the pick of the midfielders, Rathbone full of energy, but not able to really make things happen as he would have liked. Likewise, Dobson, who was competitive in midfield, but maybe wasn't able to just get into the sort of positions where he could make a difference going forwards. And then up front, Rodriguez looked very sharp early on, but then once we stopped keeping the ball as well as we were at the start, he finds himself just without the ball dropping off to help midfield, and I had a lot of sympathy for him. In the passages of play where we came forwards, I thought he looked effective, but he was inevitably going to be brought off when we changed things around. And likewise, Smith couldn't make much of an impact, but then again, I think that the service to him wasn't great, and the ball bouncing through off on this fast pitch really didn't suit him, so that was unfortunate for him. The substitutions we made, well, 3 are made fairly early on. Fletcher, as ever, puts himself around, looked at the beating of the centre-backs in the air, but maybe didn't quite have enough opportunities to really use that dominance. He had one moment of hope, a great ball, I can't remember who played it to him, punched to him on the edge of the area, and you just think, oh, this is exactly what Fletcher's for. He's a player with a lovely touch. And he missed it. He's back to goal, and I think he must have been thinking, right, I'll take a little touch to knock it out of my feet, and then bang, top corner. And maybe he was thinking a bit about the bang top corner bit, and he missed it when he tried to take the touch. But yeah, that was just a shame for him. Elliot Lee again, like last Saturday, did well when he came on. Our midfield improved when he started getting forwards and he was playing more progressive passes. And Barnett was lively and put a couple of good crosses in as well. But ultimately, yeah, frustration. But Wigan are strong. I mean, afterwards, I'm getting a bit bored of hearing people say this. The Wigan's commentator said, "Oh, it's the best we've played this season." And I said, "Yeah, why are people doing this to us?" Their fans were thrilled and clapped them off as if they'd beaten us 3-0. I'm not knocking that. That's the reaction in the context of what's been a disappointing season for them. But goodness me, yeah, it wasn't a game you'd expect to have such a big ovation. Let's put it that way. But still, it's a good point for them, which probably, I think they're safe anyway. I think that pretty much assures it. And it was a disappointing point for us, but like I said, we still hold it in our own hands, and we've got to remember that. With a final score of Wigan Athletic 0, Wrexham 0, I recognised it, came off.